What's good, YouTubers and YouTubettes? This is JB Sports, back again with another one. TGIF got breaking news. Cash Cow Boxing and Unified Super Middleweight Champion Saul Canelo Alvarez has announced that his proposed matchup with WBA Light Heavyweight Champion JBsports and the date that they were supposed to fight was September 18th has now been pushed back to November. So this will be the third consecutive year that Canelo has missed fighting on Mexican Independence Day. He will now focus on fighting in November, as he said he needs more time to train in his gym in San Diego. Now this is basically the same scenario that got played out in 2019 when he was in negotiations with Sergey Kovalev. Sergey Kovalev had just got through taking on a hard fight with Anthony Yard. He made it through rocky moments. I think it was the 8th or 9th round where he almost got stopped. He was able to overcome that and eventually stop Anthony Yard as Anthony Yard inexperience showed up. And the championship experience of Sergey Kovalev showed up, and he was able to stop a young gun in Anthony Yard. And that fight ended up taking place in November in 2019, and it took place at the full weight of 175 pounds in the light heavyweight division. So I can see the scenario playing out again, as Canelo Alvarez probably heard a lot of people saying that, man, that's messed up, man. You're going to make Bivol come down and wait, but you wasn't willing to do that with Sergey Kovalev, because you knew Sergey Kovalev was a little bit long in the tooth. He had looked shaky in his last couple of fights. He had got stopped by Alvarez, and before that he got stopped by Andre Ward, and he was able to beat Anthony Yard, but he almost got stopped in that fight. So you were willing to fight him at the full weight of 175 pounds, but when you're talking about a guy that's more fresher, a guy that has a very fundamentally sound, high skill type of fighter in JBsports, you're gonna try to weight drain him. I think that played a part of it, and I think another thing played a part of it was, I don't think Canelo Alvarez was really keen on fighting JBsports. I think he was really had his heart set on fighting Caleb Plant, but he's loyal to Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn's putting on shows in Mexico, giving fighters that fight under Canelo promotion shine over there. Other fighters that Eddie Reynoso trains, giving those guys shine over there in Mexico. So they're basically in lockstep with Eddie Hearn. It's kind of funny to me when people ain't put two and two together with Eddie Hearn anyway, man. He was the reason why those negotiations fell apart between Canelo Alvarez and Caleb Plant. I don't know why people think that it was Eddie Reynoso leading the negotiations. I think Eddie, let me just put it to you like this. Eddie Reynoso was talking with the PBC. I'm pretty much sure it was that. But when they was giving him different proposals, I think he was going back and getting feedback from Eddie Hearn. Because he don't know, a lot of things he don't know. So he was making sure that Canelo Alvarez was getting the best possible deal that he can get. So he would go back and say, okay, this is what PBC, this is what Al Heyman said. This is what Luis Cuba said. He'll go back there and tell Eddie Hearn, and Eddie Hearn will say, okay, well that's the things that they want to happen for the fight to take place. Okay, well they want a straight up fight with a winner take all type of fight, man. I think you should put a rematch clause in there. That's what I do with AJ. And then Eddie Reynoso will go back there and ask for a rematch clause in the 11th hour. And they agree to that, and then he'd be like, oh, well, you might, with this COVID-19, you never know, he could get contracted with the COVID virus. He might have to get pulled out. You need to ask for, the ability to fight a replacement opponent for him for the same amount of money. Ask for that, man. You're the cash cow. He's a cash cow boxer. He's a Canelo Alvarez. That's what I would do in AJ's case. And then Eddie Reynoso would go back to Luis Cuba's and Al Heyman and come with that proposal. And that's the type of stuff I think was happening in the background. Eddie Hearn was trying to make it look like he didn't have nothing to do with it. He was sitting on the sideline. But I guarantee you he was giving his feedback to Eddie Reynoso. Eddie Reynoso was basically telling him what PBC was saying as far as the negotiations, and then he was coming with the counter proposals directly from Eddie Hearn. I believe that was the case, and I believe that was the main reason why the fight got sabotaged. He did similar things too. If you go way, this stuff is just like stuff repeating itself, man. These negotiations between Caleb Plant and Canelo Alvarez is parallel to negotiations between Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder. You remember when Anthony Joshua actually was talking directly with Deontay Wilder when they was working on that $50 million deal for Anthony Joshua. But then Anthony Joshua was going back to Eddie Hearn, telling Eddie Hearn what him and Deontay Wilder was talking about. That was supposed to be a private conversation between those two guys, those two black fighters. They was, you know, Deontay Wilder basically telling us, hey man, we're the two biggest names in boxing, man. Let's make this money, man. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna set ourselves up and we're gonna make generational money. We're gonna have generational wealth after this particular matchup, man. Let's come together as black men and make this thing happen. But Anthony Joshua went back to his team, which he probably didn't have no choice, because I think the language in this contract that he has with Eddie Hearn and Matchroom Boxing, he's a free agent as far as everybody. Oh, he's a free agent. Yeah, he's a free agent as far as U.S. TV rights goes. He's a free agent. You know, he's a free agent in that regard. Yeah. But as far as over there in the UK, he's tied in with Matchroom Boxing. Make no mistake about it. Look at all his fights. He fought on Sky Sports pay-per-view. Now that's probably changed. Now, you know, the Matchroom Boxing is no longer working with Sky Sports pay-per-view. But I don't know if that's includes AJ and Dillian White, because he seemed to leave those two guys out when talking about that deal. So maybe those two guys still are going to fight on Sky pay-per-view, or maybe they are actually going to go over there to the Zone. But the bottom line is, even if that is the case, Anthony Joshua is on a fight-by-fight deal with the Zone, so he don't have a contract with the Zone. So he's free and clear to go and fight on any other platform, at least as far as the United States goes. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. But the breaking news is Canelo Alvarez will not be fighting on Mexican Independence Day. It won't happen. It won't happen. Will he end up fighting Caleb Plant in November? That's the question of the video, and I don't think so. I really don't think so, man. You know, if you can't accept a contract where you're gonna be making a career high purse, and you turn that down, I don't think it's gonna happen in November. You know, it should have happened in September if that was the case. What's gonna be the difference in 3 months? September, October, November, 2 months difference when you was gonna make a career high purse for a fight in September. What's 2 months gonna change that scenario up, unless you're gonna wake up and smell the coffee and agree to the $40 million deal, and don't ask Bivol, man, don't ask Caleb Plant to basically give you the sun, the moon, and the stars, then the fight will go down. So we will see how it all plays out. But I think it's what's going to end up happening is I think he's going to fight Dimitri Bivol in November at the full weight of 175 pounds. I think that's going to be the case, similar to what happened in 2019 when he fought Sergey Kovalev. I think he just needs a little bit more time to build his body up, get his body acclimated to that high weight, and come in, you know, as close to 100% as he did in the Sergey Kovalev fight. And he'll be ready to fight a naturally bigger guy in Dimitri Bivol. Now, as far as his manager and advisor Eddie Hearn goes, Eddie Hearn got to be real careful here. He's got to be real careful. He's alienated a lot of different big wigs in boxing, a lot of different promoters in boxing. He's alienated a lot of those guys. You know, he don't have a good relationship with Frank Warren. He don't have a good relationship with Oscar De La Hoya, who's a promoter of Golden Boy Promotions. And again, Frank Warren, who's the promoter of Queensberry Promotions. Those guys you're going to have to work with. If you want to make Anthony Joshua versus Joe Joyce down the line, you have to be able to work with Frank Warren. But if you got a lot of bad blood, you're lying on this guy, you're saying the guy fighter should get rid of him, his team, because his team don't know what they're doing. It's basically what you was insinuating when AJ and Fury fell apart due to the arbitrators ruling in Deontay Wilder's favor. When you think, you know, it's going to be a lot of bad blood, when there's going to be a lot of tension when you come to the negotiation table. That could be a problem for making big fights. That could be the same scenario that could play out when dealing with the PBC, man. You look at the whole AJ Wilder fiasco, those failed negotiations played out. The PBC probably won't be in a hurry to negotiate with you on a potential Wilder-Dillian White fight. You know, you try to make that fight happen. A lot of bad blood going on between these two entities. That can prevent a fight like that from happening. A lot of people want to see that fight. That's one of the best fights in the heavyweight division. It's not the best, but outside of what? AJ Wilder and Fury AJ, that's probably the biggest fight in boxing. Deontay Wilder versus Dillian White. But that fight might not happen because of the bad blood. Eddie Hearn's got to be real careful. That's basically what I'm saying. You know, him and Bobby Arum going back and forth. He trying to say Bobby Arum when Barbarian said about possibly having AJ and Fury over in the UK, he basically said Barbarian just trying to take the people's minds off of the reason that Fury and Wilder 3 is failing at the ticket office. It's flat as a pancake is what he said. You know, that's basically what he was saying, insinuating that. And then, you know, Arum came back. Bob Arum, a.k.a. the Bob Father, came back and blasted Eddie Hearn. Basically said that he talks without thinking. You know, basically compared him to the former president of the United States, Donald Trump. You know, so there's a lot of bad blood. So if Fury and wins against Wilder and AJ beats Usyk and they try to go back to the negotiation table, it's going to be a lot of bad blood, a lot of bad animosity between Arum and Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren. So I'm just saying Eddie Hearn's going to have to quit, you know, having these back and forth with these different promoters and then expect to sit down and have, you know, and make significant fights, man. Hopefully they can get by that when it comes down to making fights that's going to put money in both promoters' pockets in a significant way. Hopefully they can overcome that, but you see it play out in the Caleb Plant and Canelo Alvarez fight. Obviously, Eddie Hearn didn't want the fight to take place on the Fox pay-per-view. He wanted it on the zone. Instead of looking out for what's best for his fighter, Canelo Alvarez, he was looking out what's best for Eddie Hearn in his competitors. His competitor Fox going up against the company that he's trying to make it big in the United States, that being the zone. So it's just a lot of situations getting played out in this regard as far as Canelo and Caleb Plant, or Canelo versus JBsports. But Eddie Hearn just got to really start trying to be a little bit more diplomatic in his interviews. Quit trying to go at it. You know, back in the day, he called him Shirley Winkle and stuff like that, calling the man out his name, and then, you know, he really didn't want to make that fight, so he really didn't care about calling him out his name. But these other guys you getting into it with, you know, again, Oscar De La Hoya and Golden Boy Promotions, y'all two going back and forth. He said you called Canelo out when he was with Golden Boy Promotions, saying he was a PED chief, and now you're working with him. Oscar De La Hoya ain't in no hurry to work with you. You know, you trying to still get a fight with your WBC lightweight champion, Devin the Dream Haney. You know, you're trying to make a fight between him and JoJo Diaz. They don't like that's going to happen. Before that, you tried to get a fight between Devin Dream Haney and Ryan Garcia. That fight didn't happen. And Oscar De La Hoya probably ain't really try to work with Eddie Hearn at this moment. He feels that Eddie Hearn basically pulled a snake move and stealing Canelo Alvarez behind his back. Basically got Canelo over there with the zone. Maybe Oscar De La Hoya feel that he was already talking to Canelo behind the scenes before Canelo Alvarez actually left Golden Boy Promotion, before he actually took Golden Boy Promotion to court. You know, he kind of looked at Eddie Hearn, and it's kind of like two homeboys, and his homeboy break up with his girlfriend, his ex-girlfriend, then his best friend start talking and start dating and going out with his homeboy ex-girlfriend. It's like, I know that's my ex-girlfriend, we ain't together no more, but why are you going out with her? So you was trying to, low-key, you was really wanting to holler at her when we was together, that type of stuff. So that's the type of mentality I think Oscar De La Hoya had towards Eddie the Con artist. So that's just some of the things he's going to have to really be keen on, man, because he's costing his fighters big fights. You know, Devin the Dream Haney is a guy that's going to be two-time mandatory challenge that avoid fighting him for his title, man. That's something that we never seen in the sport of boxing. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. Let me know your thoughts about Canelo Alvarez breaking up with the Mexican Independence date of September 18th. The fight's not happening. And what other fights can maybe take that place of that date? Maybe we get Mikey Garcia versus Regis Prograis on September 18th. Maybe Bob Arum. I know Bob Arum probably already looking to swoop in and take that date. Maybe put one of his Latino fighters that fight up under his promotional company on that September 18th date. You know, maybe the PBC will try to set something up. They still got Leo Santa Cruz over there. Maybe they can put him in a significant fight on September 18th. Now they got the week before, September 11th, they got Brandon Figueroa taking on Stephen Fulton. That's September 11th. And also Oscar De La Hoya will be fighting Victor Belfort, a former MMA fighter. That fight's going to be on September 11th on the Triller app. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. But let me know your thoughts about Canelo Alvarez pushing back his next fight to November and who you think it's going to be. I think it's actually going to be Bivol, and it'll be at the full weight of 175 pounds. I think that's what's going to end up happening next. I think Caleb Plant pursues a fight with Jamal Charlo for later on this year. I think they'll try to put that on Fox pay-per-view, and I think that's what's going to end up happening. The winner of that fight between Charlo and Plant, I think will set the stage to fight Benavidez in the first quarter of 2022. I think the PBC has moved on from Canelo Alvarez. I think they say, look, we offered this man a career high pay date. He didn't accept it. We're finna move on and do our own thing. And I think that's what other fighters need to do. And that's another thing I didn't like about these negotiations. This negotiation period, it was holding up other fights. Now other fights can move along, get their dates, and we can start getting the calendar set up for the fall and winter of 2021. So we will see what happens. We will see what transpires. One more quick thing. Gary Russell Jr. and Ray Vargas. That's a fight that maybe PBC can put on September 18th. Maybe they can put that fight on Showtime. I think Gary Russell Jr. is waiting on a date for that fight. That fight is pretty much a done deal between those two guys. They're just looking for a date and a venue. So that possibly put that fight on September 18th. So a lot of things are opening up now that Canelo Alvarez has made his announcement that he's not going to fight on that date. And we'll just sit back and wait for these fights to finally get announced and see what the schedule holds for the rest of 2021. Let me know your thoughts and follow me on Facebook, GerardBriscoe.3551. And hit the like button if you like the content of this video. And subscribe to JB Sports, the man, the myth, the legend. And I'll holler.